CreepyCorner stories.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CreepyCorner stories. You know, diving into the dark web is always risky, but sharing these stories with you makes it worth it. I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Let me know in the comments below. I've noticed that these kinds of stories hit differently depending on where you are. It might even make the experience a little creepier. So, tell me, are you watching from the safety of your home or somewhere less secure? I got hired on the dark web to guard a research station in Antarctica. We were never told what was buried under the ice. Alright, this might sound like total BS, but I swear on everything, this really happened. If you're expecting some over-the-top jump scare or demons with glowing eyes, you can click off. This isn't that kind of story. This is worse, because it could happen to anyone. Okay, so let's rewind about a year ago. I was 23, jobless, living in my mom's basement in Michigan, and basically just floating through life. I was stuck in that cycle of scrolling through TikTok, gaming till 3 a.m., and applying to dead-end jobs on Indeed. I had a cybersecurity certificate, but no real experience. You know the vibe. One night, I got into this deep hole on Reddit, r/deepweb. If you know, you know. It's a mix of horror stories, weird screenshots, and how to not die when you use Tor. I wasn't trying to go full hacker mode or anything. I was just bored, curious, so I followed this rabbit hole, downloaded Tor, made a burner laptop, all the usual precautions, VPNs, you name it. I figured I'd look around, maybe find a creepy hitman forum, or some haunted doll listings, just dumb stuff. Instead, I found a job board. Yeah, a literal job board. Looked almost normal. It was called Blacklight Contracts. Just a black screen, neon green text, kind of matrixy. There were listings for stuff like under-the-table security gigs, underground courier, and some, let's say morally questionable positions. But one job stood out. The title was in red, URGENT, Private Security Needed, Antarctic Research Outpost. No experience required. $50,000 per month. 6-month contract. Must be able to keep secrets. I don't know what it was. The Antarctic part? The money? The no experience part? Either way, my dumbass clicked it. It opened a form. Real basic. Name, email, age. A question that said, do you believe in things beneath us? I thought it was some ARG, honestly. Some YouTuber prank, maybe. So I filled it out with fake info. Tossed in a weird meme response to the question. Something like, only when I drop my phone in the toilet lol. Sent it. Thought nothing of it. Then, exactly 3 days later, I got an email on that burner I used. It was encrypted. I had to use a one-time decryption key that auto-deleted after 30 minutes. Super sketchy. But of course, I opened it. The email said this. Welcome aboard. Your plane leaves in 48 hours. Pack light. Trust no one. More details at the terminal. Don't be late. It also had a nondescript QR code. I scanned it. Boom. Ticket. One way. Detroit Metro to a private airport in Argentina. Then a flight to McMurdo Auxiliary Drop Zone. I googled that. Didn't exist. At this point, I still thought it was a game. Like I was about to be on some Mr. Beast, lost to leave, Antarctica wins $500,000 challenge. But curiosity got the better of me. I said nothing to anyone. Told my mom I got a temp gig overseas with a tech company. Packed 2 duffel bags, my laptop, thermal gear from Amazon, and left. The The flight from Detroit to Buenos Aires was normal. Nothing weird. I did notice that there were two other guys on the plane that looked off, like they were trying to look normal. You ever see someone wearing too much brand new North Face? That was them, and they kept looking around like they were waiting for something to happen. I figured we were all going to the same place. At the Buenos Aires terminal, I was met by a guy in a plain black jacket, holding a sign with my Red Room username. That's when I knew this wasn't some prank. He handed me a duffel bag, a passport that had my real face, but a different name, and told me to follow him. No questions. We boarded a tiny military-looking cargo plane. No logos, no flight staff, just us. 5 guys in total, including me. The others looked just as unsure. No one spoke. They gave us headphones with white noise and sleeping masks, told us to put them on. I don't remember landing. When I woke up, I was in a metal room, like a submarine vibe. Cold, humming walls. My stuff was at the foot of a steel bed. My passport was gone. I was inside Outpost L7, apparently. A man in a grey coat came in with this weird badge that had no name, just a symbol. It looked like a black spiral. He introduced himself as Dr. Kerr. He didn't smile. He said, "You'll be working security on rotation. Your job is to patrol the perimeter, monitor the seismic sensors, and report anything unusual immediately. Do not enter the southern corridor. Do not speak to the researchers. Do not ask questions." I asked what we were guarding. He looked at me, dead serious, and said, "We are here to ensure what's beneath doesn't wake up." I laughed. He didn't. If you've ever been in total silence for more than a few minutes, like real silence, not the kind you get at home with noise-canceling headphones, but the kind where even your own blood feels too loud, you'll understand how Antarctica messes with your head. It's not just the cold, it's what the cold takes away from you. Outpost L7 wasn't a research station the way you're probably picturing it. No glass igloos or panoramic views. It was buried almost completely underground, under miles of reinforced steel and layers of blue glacial ice that made the walls sweat like they were alive. Every hallway felt like a throat, long, narrow, echoed when you walked. Even the air tasted off, like plastic and static. There were no clocks, no windows. We had to go by shifts and these buzzing alarms that came from the ceiling, like the sound you hear in horror movies right before something explodes. You could never tell what time it was. Days bled into each other. I was one of 5 guards. There was me, Trey, a loud-mouthed guy from Atlanta who clearly didn't read the contract. Hutchins, ex-military, paranoid, always chewing nicotine gum. This skinny, ghost-looking dude we called Bones, never said his real name, and a woman named Marla. She didn't speak much, just watched. Eyes like she'd already seen the worst part of the story. On my second week, I got my first solo perimeter shift. That meant walking the outer ring of the facility, which included passing by the southern corridor. We weren't allowed to go near it. Not unless something was wrong. Not unless one of the red lights above it turned on. Guess what? It was on. Red light, buzzing, flickering like a dying bulb. There was no one else in the hall. I radioed it in. Static. Tried again. More static. That wasn't unusual. Radio interference down there was awful, but the protocol was clear. If a red light comes on and you're closest, you go check it. So I did. The southern corridor wasn't like the others. The temperature dropped almost 10 degrees the second I stepped toward it. My visor fogged up instantly. I had to take it off just to see. The lights in that hallway were dimmer, orange, not white, like they were trying not to wake something up. The first thing I noticed was the scraping, like metal dragging on metal, but slower, wet. Then I heard a voice. It was coming from behind one of the reinforced doors along the hall. They were numbered, S1 through S9. The voice was coming from S7. It was whispering something, repeating it. I pressed my ear to the door. It was my own voice. It kept saying, "You shouldn't be here. You already died. You already died. You already died." I backed away so fast, I hit the opposite wall. My whole body was shaking. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a recording, some kind of psychological experiment. Then the door hissed. It unlatched, by itself. I should have run, but my body didn't move. It was like I was rooted to the floor, my boots frozen into the steel. S7 creaked open just enough to show the inside, and I swear to God, there was no room behind it, no walls, no lights, just darkness, like the door opened into a void, and in that void, something was moving. It didn't step out, it folded out, like it didn't have bones, like it was used to being flat. Its body shimmered in and out of view, like static on an old TV. Humanoid, but stretched, wrong proportions, long arms that dragged on the floor. No face, just a smooth, skin-like surface, with red slits where eyes should have been, except the eyes weren't looking at me. They were looking through me. I heard my voice again, behind me this time. "You were supposed to stay out." I turned. Nothing was there. When I looked back at the door, it was shut, locked tight. The light above it was green again. I sprinted out of there so fast, I nearly broke my ankle on the ice, forming near the vent grates. I told Hutchins what I saw, and he just stared at me for a full minute before saying, "S7 opened for me last week." I didn't tell anyone either. Then he walked off. No one reported it. No one ever did, because we knew no one would believe us, and if you told the higher-ups, you were transferred. That's what happened to Marla. I found her a few nights later, down near the backup generator wing. She was staring at the wall, whispering to herself. She didn't blink. Her mouth was bleeding. I tapped her shoulder. She turned around, and I wish I could unsee it. Her tongue was gone, like it had been ripped out. She had carved letters into the wall with her fingers, bloody fingerprints spelling the same phrase over and over again. "It's under the ice. It's not asleep." After that night, we never saw her again. No body, no gear. Her name was wiped from the logs, like she was never there. That's when I started digging. Not literally, though some guys had tried. We found a panel behind the rec room wall that wasn't on the blueprint. Bones pried it open and found what looked like a surveillance hub. Monitors showing rooms we never saw. Cold chambers with things in them. Things that moved too smoothly, like spiders with too many joints. One was labeled Subject 02C, vocal mimicry effective. Then the footage went black. I still remember that timestamp, 3:13:47. That number shows up everywhere in the outpost, on pipes, on data files, even stitched into the back of my issue jacket. I asked Dr. Kerr what it meant. He looked at me and said, "It's how long you'll last once it gets out." That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, every night, I hear my own voice coming from the vents, calling to me, begging, laughing, sometimes screaming. And last night, The red light above S7 wasn't blinking. It was off. The door was open, and there were boot prints in the snow heading out into the ice. But not human boot prints. Something with 4 legs and claws. We followed them until they just stopped, like it rose up and walked into the air. If you're reading this, part 3 will explain the cameras we found buried outside. The ones that show footage from before the station was even built. The footage that shows us, but from years ago. Let me know if you want it. You really shouldn't. You ever look at a picture of yourself and feel like something's wrong, not with the photo, but with you. Like it's your face, your clothes, your smile, but something behind your eyes is off. Like whoever took that photo didn't ask for a pose. They took it. That's what it felt like when we found the cameras. It happened 4 weeks into the deployment. By that time, Trey was gone. He didn't say goodbye, didn't pack. One day, he was talking about how bad he missed Chick-fil-A. The next day, his bed was stripped, his ID erased from the logbooks, and his name blacked out on the rotation charts. You had to squint just to see that it used to say, Trey. Dr. Kerr told us he was extracted. Bones didn't buy it. He whispered to me that Trey had been duplicated. I didn't ask what he meant, because I already knew. I'd seen something wearing Trey's face, roaming the rec hallway at 3 a.m., twitching, stuttering, its lips slightly out of sync with the words coming out. It didn't blink. Anyway, the cameras. Hutchins found the first one during a perimeter sweep. He was out laying salt near the outer fuel tanks. Ice kept freezing the valves shut, and his boot struck something metal under the snow. He thought it was a pipe at first. Dug it up. Turned out to be a rusted steel briefcase. No label, no markings. We popped it open in the mess hall using a crowbar and gloves. Inside was an old-school reel camera. Film, like actual film, wrapped in plastic. There were also 3 black and white photographs, grainy as hell, curled at the edges from moisture. They showed a metal hatch, half buried in ice, with that same spiral symbol we saw on Dr. Kerr's badge. A group of 6 people standing in front of what looked like a collapsed drilling rig. Their faces were scratched out, like someone had clawed at the photo with a needle. A still frame of a hallway. Our hallway. But the floor was flooded in blood. Not smeared, not spilled. Flooded. And there was a shadow at the end, longer than any human could make, with 2 arms and 2 legs that were just a little too long to be real. Bones managed to set up a projector using one of the lab rooms. It took 2 days to get the film dry enough to run, and when it finally played, the footage started with static and glitchy flashes of snow and timestamps. All of them read 1972. Outpost L7 wasn't built until 2001, so we watched. The camera showed someone, looked like a man in a parka, walking with a mounted flashlight through a tight metal corridor. Same construction style as our station, but older, more rust, less wiring. There was no sound, just the click, click, click of the reel spinning. The camera turned a corner, and that's when we saw ourselves, clear as day. Bones, Hutchins, Marla, me, standing, still, in full uniform, but we weren't moving, just frozen in place, like mannequins. Our eyes were open, our mouths were too. Wide open, like we were screaming, except there was no sound. Then the camera zoomed in on me. My left eye twitched, and then my mouth closed. The reel jammed. Bones had to shut it off. No one spoke for what felt like a full hour. Later that night, Hutchins couldn't sleep. He dragged me to the old satellite shed out back, saying we needed to see something. We suited up and walked through a blizzard that felt like razors. The winds made your skin pulse. It's hard to explain, but it's like the weather knew you were coming, like it was trying to keep something hidden. We reached the shed, half collapsed, covered in a crust of ice 3 inches thick. Inside were dozens of sealed black containers stacked against the walls, each one marked with a number and a single word: archive. We pried one open. Inside were hundreds of mini DV tapes, tagged with dates going back to 1969. We pulled a random one and plugged it into a portable player. It showed a room, concrete, no furniture, just a man strapped to a chair, screaming at the ceiling. His face was mangled, not from injury, from something moving under his skin, like worms pushing through from the inside. His veins were black. His teeth were bleeding. He said the same phrase over and over. It's in the ice. It's in the blood. It's wearing us. Then he bit his own tongue off and spat it at the camera. The screen cut to black. I wanted to vomit. We checked the date on the tape. It was labeled L7, subject 19, post-exposure day 4. Post-exposure to what? That's when Hutchins showed me the map. It was hand-drawn, crumpled, water-stained. Looked like it was copied from an original, based on how shaky the lines were. But in the center of it, under the labeled areas of the station, North Labs, South Corridor, Containment Vault, there was a circle, and in that circle were 3 words, written in thick red pen: do not dig. Below that, scrawled like an afterthought, it hums when it's dreaming. We weren't guarding anything, we were feeding it. I started noticing changes after that. My skin itched constantly. My dreams were no longer mine. I'd wake up with blood under my nails and ice in my hair, even though I hadn't left the bed. My voice cracked in weird places, like it was learning another pitch beneath it. One night, I caught myself in the mirror, and my reflection smiled back 2 seconds too late. Then Bones disappeared. Not like before. His bed was still there, his ID still active, but every time we went to look for him, the station would reroute. Doors that used to go to the rec room now opened to janitor closets. Stairwells looped. I swear one hallway got longer the more we walked it. And sometimes we'd hear Bones through the intercom, crying or laughing, sometimes both at once. We tried to disable the comms. Didn't work, because there were no wires leading to the speakers. I confronted Dr. Kerr, cornered him in the mess, and demanded answers. He looked tired, older than before. His skin had a blue tint, like something frozen underneath it. He sighed and handed me a flash drive, said it was time to understand what we were standing on. I plugged it into my laptop that night. There was only one file, a video titled Day Zero, The Pulse. It showed satellite footage, 1999. A chunk of Antarctic ice the size of Manhattan shifted by itself. No explosion, no fault line. It just rose, like something underneath had breathed in. Then the seismic data started. Rhythmic pulses, every 3 hours, 13 minutes, and 47 seconds. A beat, like a heartbeat, and then voices, not picked up by microphone, picked up by vibration sensors. Words deep enough to crack rock. Translated, it said, "You open the door. I will wear your skin. I will wear your memories. I will be you." I haven't slept since. Not because I'm scared, because I keep catching myself falling asleep with my own voice talking to me. but my mouth isn't moving. You think it can't get worse. You're wrong. You don't even know what lives in your own face. The human body burns at around 1,600 degrees Fahrenheit. That's something I didn't want to know. Something I wish I didn't know. But now I do. And so will you. When you walk past the incinerator room in Outpost L7, it smells like old pennies and wet teeth, like copper and bone broth left to rot in a sealed metal tomb. It's locked by 2 coded panels, one of which is biometric, requires a handprint, Dr. Kerr's handprint. After Bones vanished and Hutchins stopped sleeping altogether, his eyes were sunken so deep I thought he was wearing a mask. We decided to break into the room. Trey was gone. Marla was gone. Bones was God knows what now. It was just Hutchins and me. We didn't plan it like a mission. It was more like desperation. We were rotting in this snow-wrapped coffin, and the walls were whispering things they shouldn't know. Every time I brushed my teeth, the water faucet whispered my name in a voice that didn't match the acoustics of the room. The air vents started breathing in. Every mirror started showing things a split second before they happened, like it was remembering me before I existed. So yeah, breaking into the incinerator, that felt like the only logical thing left to do. We waited until 3:13 a.m., the pulse hour. It always came on the 47th second, just a low groaning quake beneath the station, barely noticeable unless you were laying on the floor. That's when the internal systems glitched. Doors unlocked for 3 seconds, lights flickered, cameras stalled. Hutchins and I timed it. We pried the metal panel open during the pulse and bypassed the biometric by using an old trick we picked up watching deep web forensics videos, spray bottle of ice, copper wire, and a stolen strip of Kerr's gloves. Don't ask me how that works. He knew. I just followed. The door opened with a groan like something alive was being disturbed. Inside wasn't what I expected. There was no trash, no ash bins, no conveyor belts. The room was circular, steel-plated walls etched with markings I can't even begin to describe. They weren't letters, not even symbols, more like scars, burned into the walls. Some of them were bleeding. Dead center was a round hatch the size of a manhole cover, surrounded by scorched bone fragments. Human, animal, something in between. All warped and blackened, like they'd been through multiple burn cycles. Hutchins picked up a piece. It screamed. I don't mean he screamed. I mean the bone screamed. It let out this high-pitched, gargling shriek, like a child being pulled apart underwater. He dropped it instantly. The scream echoed in the metal walls and didn't stop for 30 seconds. Long after the bone hit the floor, the scream kept going. The incinerator had recordings. There was a console at the back wall. Analog. Old tape reels, labeled with Roman numerals, each marked by date. We picked one at random. 14. We played it. You ever hear someone being burned alive? No, you haven't. Not the way this tape sounded. This wasn't just someone screaming in pain. This was every scream they'd ever scream for the rest of their life, all at once. Layered. Voices screaming inside the voice. Male, female, young, old, all coming from one throat. I vomited. Hutchins didn't blink. He kept listening. The last 30 seconds of the tape were silent. Then came this wet, mechanical gurgle, like a tongue made of wires slapping against meat. Then a voice, not from the tape. Behind us, it said, "That one didn't stay dead." We turned around. No one was there, except the hatch. It was open, and inside it, something was breathing. We backed out. Slow. Hutchins dropped his flashlight. When it hit the floor, it didn't bounce. It just sank into the metal, like the floor had become liquid for just that moment, then hardened again. We locked the incinerator and never spoke of it, but it didn't forget us. That night, Hutchins woke up with bite marks on his back. Not animal, human. Rows of teeth, 4 jaws, one set on his shoulder, one across his spine, one under his ribs, and one, impossibly, on the back of his neck, like it was trying to eat its way into his head. We checked the cameras. There was no footage from his room. The timestamp was corrupted, just static, but one frame flickered in for less than half a second. It showed Hutchins asleep in bed, and me standing over him, but I wasn't there. I swear to you, I didn't move from my room that night. I locked the door. I wedged a chair against it. I scratched tally marks into the wall to keep myself grounded. I only had 4, but in the video, there were 6 of me, all standing in a circle around Hutchins, all facing outward, all smiling. He left the next day. Didn't pack. Didn't even take his boots. He just walked out of the station into the ice fields wearing only his underclothes. We found the trail. It didn't lead anywhere. Just ended, like something had lifted him straight into the sky. That was the same night the knocking started. From inside the walk-in freezer, it came at exactly 3:13:47. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more. Then a long drag, like nails across the inner wall. We tried to open it. Wouldn't budge. We even tried cutting the power to the magnetic locks. No dice. But the knocking kept going. Every night. Until the 4th night. Then it started speaking. The voice came from inside the freezer, but it was distorted, glitchy, like when you drag a corrupted MP3 file into Audacity and it plays that warped, demonic radio static. The voice said, "Too late. I'm wearing you already." I didn't eat for 2 days after that. Couldn't, because every time I tried to chew, I could feel something else chewing with me. My jaw moved one way, my tongue moved another, like I had a second skull behind my face. The freezer finally opened by itself on the 7th day. We went in, found the walls covered in meat, not stacked, not hanging, grown, into the metal. Tendrils of muscle fused to the pipes, veins pulsing slowly, like a heartbeat. In the back corner was a humanoid figure. No face, no limbs, just a torso and a neck wrapped in plastic, like it had been shrink-wrapped alive. Its chest moved. It breathed backwards, exhaling sharp gasps, then inhaling with a scream. And on its stomach, carved deep into the skin, were the words, "Still hungry." We burned the whole room. Doesn't matter. The meat grew back. Every day. Same spots. Same twitching sinew. Same carved message. I haven't seen my reflection in days. Not because there aren't mirrors. Because my reflection won't show up anymore. And I'm starting to wonder, who's writing this? Me? Or the thing that already wore me? You can't scream in your sleep if your mouth isn't yours anymore. Not if it's borrowed. Not if it was traded for something that remembers what screaming used to feel like. It's been 47 days since I last knew what time it was. The station hasn't had sunlight in weeks, but I see shadows moving, not across the floor, inside the walls. Shadows made of nerves, twitching like muscle memory. Things that should never crawl now walk, and things that should never breathe now whisper your name in your own voice. The others are all gone, all of them, but I still hear their footsteps every night at 3:13:47, sometimes in boots, sometimes on all fours, and sometimes dragging behind me like I'm not walking alone anymore. It started with the glass room. There's a chamber under L7, buried under 20 meters of steel and reinforced quartz. I only found it because the floor in the cafeteria started cracking, and when I followed the fault line, it led to a panel beneath the storage freezer. Unmarked. No map. Not even a warning sticker. It opened when I touched it, like it was waiting for me. Inside was a spiral staircase that spiraled too many times. 11 rotations, then 13, then 23. My head started ringing around the 31st step. My ears bled around the 40th. But I kept going because something was pulling me. Not physically, psychologically. Like nostalgia for a nightmare you don't remember having. The chamber at the bottom was lit, not by bulbs, by pulsing veins of light running through the glass walls like optic nerves. The room was a dome, perfectly spherical. Inside were thousands of screens floating midair. Some displayed images. None of them were from this timeline. The first screen showed me, but I was 9 years old, standing in my childhood kitchen in Michigan, holding a butter knife and staring at my reflection in the toaster. Except my eyes were black, and my mouth was already smiling, even though I hadn't smiled yet. I watched as I turned to the cabinet behind me and opened it before the reflection did. The second screen showed Marla, but she was gutted open on a table of bone, being studied by thin things with hands made of eyes. Her organs twitched like they were still afraid. Her skin was being peeled, but not for pain, for replication. Every layer scanned, every nerve memorized. Then the third screen. That one showed nothing, just a static image. But the timestamp, tomorrow's date, and the file name? You still think you're real. Move. That's when I heard it again. The voice. Only this time, it wasn't in my ears. It was in my teeth, buzzing, rattling my molars, speaking through the fillings, each word drilling into bone. The ice wasn't to preserve, it was to trap. But we melted it. You brought us voices, and we remembered we had mouths. I ran. I don't remember climbing the stairs. I just remember blood in my boots and fingernails cracking from gripping the walls. When I burst out of the freezer and back into the main station, it was snowing inside. The ceilings were gone, just swirling black void above. And in it, faces, thousands of them, stretched wide across the dark, blinking at different speeds. Some screamed silently, some mimicked us. Bones, Hutchins, Marla, even me. One face kept opening its jaw wider and wider until it split in half and became two mouths. And the station? It laughed. Not the people, not the intercom, the walls, the pipes, the vents, all groaning in synchronized hysteria, like we were ants inside a throat that had just realized it was starving. Then came the machine. Dr. Kerr didn't build it. He uncovered it. It was deep under the southern corridor, past where S7 used to be. There's no S7 anymore. That hallway loops now, infinitely. If you try to walk it, you come back to where you started, but something follows you back. We found Kerr standing in front of a massive ring of metal and bone and cable, half organic, half machine, covered in spinal cords and digital readouts that showed heartbeat patterns that didn't belong to anything living. He was feeding it, not food, not data, names, one after the other, speaking them aloud, names of guards, researchers, contractors. Then he said my name, and the machine grew, the heartbeat spiked, and I felt it, in my stomach, in my spine, behind my eyes. like something was knitting a version of me, cell by cell, nerve by nerve, from the memory of my name. I shot him, point blank, chest, head, spine. He didn't bleed. He leaked memories. I saw his first kiss, his mother's voice, the moment he was recruited on the dark web. I saw his teeth rot from the inside out, and I heard a voice say, "He let us in when he blinked too long." He didn't fall. He just folded inward, like paper, like a diagram collapsing back into the shape it was drawn from. The station started to scream, not in pain, in birth. The floor erupted. The lights turned to pupil-shaped holes. The PA systems bled static and fingernails. I made it outside. Somehow. Ran until my lungs tore. Collapsed in the snow. But the cold didn't hurt anymore. Because it wasn't cold. It was breathing. That was 12 hours ago. I don't know how I'm still alive. There's no signal, no rescue, no daylight. Just me and this terminal I found half fused into the side of an ice wall that shouldn't have a keyboard. The screen types even when I don't touch it. My thoughts show up before I think them. Right now, it's typing. You've almost finished. Let them read. Let them wear your memory next. If you're still here, if you made it this far, don't try to make sense of it. Don't look for the outpost. Don't search coordinates or post theories, because you'll feel it too. That little itch behind your eyes, that warmth in your jaw when your reflection blinks wrong, that whisper in the static when the TV says your name during a channel that doesn't exist. You'll think it's nothing. You'll think you're tired, but soon your mouth will smile without asking you. And then you'll know you're not watching the story. You're the next one it writes. End of log L7. We are already beneath your skin. I bought access to a Red Room archive on the dark web. One victim was never identified until I recognized her as my missing teacher. Hey Reddit. So, I don't really post on here. I just lurk a lot. Mostly on tech threads, horror stories, gaming stuff. Typical 22-year-old guy internet rabbit holes. But something happened a few months ago, and I've been debating whether to say anything or just keep pretending it didn't happen. I'm not some conspiracy guy or wannabe edgelord trying to spook people with a creepypasta. I wish this was a creepypasta. I wish I could just turn off my brain and forget about it, but I can't. This all started back in January, during that weird week where everyone was either quitting their jobs or posting New Year, New Me on Instagram. I was in between gigs, just got laid off from a dumb tech support job for a VPN company, and I had too much time on my hands. I lived just outside of Chicago in a beat-up apartment with my roommate Matt. He's cool, super into crypto and sketchy side hustles, and I guess that's what planted the seed. We were up one night watching some creepy animated story on YouTube, like those true dark web stories with titles like I Saw a Murder on Omegle, or Don't Use This Hidden Tor Browser, plug in at 3 a.m. You know the vibe. Matt turns to me and goes, "Yo, you ever actually been on the deep web?" I hadn't. I mean, I'd heard all the usual stuff. Red rooms, black markets, hitmen for hire. But I figured it was 90% myths, 10% Russian bot farms. But Matt pulls out his busted old ThinkPad and boots up Tails OS like he's about to hack into the Pentagon. Dude even had a second router. He ran a VPN through, just in case. Paranoid AF. We ended up browsing all the usual weird forums. Nothing crazy. Drug marketplaces, fake passports, a sketchy Etsy clone for, let's just say, unusual taxidermy. But one forum stuck out. It was called Black Veil Media. It didn't show up on Hidden Wiki or any surface links. You had to type in this random 32-character onion link with numbers, symbols, and 2 emojis in the address bar. Yes, emojis. I didn't even know that was possible. The landing page looked like something out of an old 2004 fan-made horror site. Blood red font, static glitching across a pixelated background, and a single message: where pain becomes art. Join the archive and see what they didn't want you to remember. There was a login prompt, no sign-up button, no password reset, just enter access code. Now, this is where it gets weird. Matt turns pale, like visibly uncomfortable. He goes silent for a second, then opens a text file on a flash drive he always kept on his keys. It was titled, "Do Not Open," like a fucking horror cliche, I know. Inside was just a string of numbers and letters. He pasted into the prompt, and it worked. We were in. The site was basically a video archive. No UI, just a directory list, like opening a raw FTP folder full of files. Each file was named with a date and a location. No titles, no descriptions. Just things like 2020-April-14 _ Tokyo, 2019-September-1 _ Paris, 2017-November-22 _ Chicago, unknown _unknown _00001. I remember feeling sick just looking at them. There were hundreds, maybe thousands. Matt clicks one at random. 2020, April 14th, Tokyo. It was a low-res video, maybe 360p, just a single static shot of a small concrete room, a woman tied to a chair. No audio except the whirring of a fan. We didn't watch the whole thing. About 5 minutes in, a figure entered the room, wearing a hoodie with the hood pulled tight, face obscured by a latex mask that looked like a cartoon smiley face, like that fake happy emoji, but stretched wide, way too wide. He didn't speak. He just stood there, then suddenly threw something at the wall. It made a loud bang, and the woman started sobbing. We closed the video. Matt looked different, like it didn't even surprise him, like he'd seen it before. I asked him what the hell this site was. He didn't answer right away. He just kept scrolling down, deeper into the list. They call it a Red Room archive, he finally said. Old streams. Some people paid to watch them live. Now they're just memories. I wanted out. I didn't want to know anything else. But then I saw something that stopped me cold. 2014, October 5th, Ohio. That date, it stuck out. That was the day my high school art teacher went missing. Miss Arrington. Everyone thought she ran away or had a breakdown. There were rumors she'd had a stalker, but no one ever confirmed it. Matt clicked it before I could stop him. And that's when everything changed. The video opens in a basement. Old, moldy cement walls. A flickering bulb overhead. A woman sitting in the corner, duct tape over her mouth, wrists zip-tied. Her eyes were puffy, like she'd been crying for days. And I swear to God, it was her. Miss Arrington. Same wavy auburn hair. Same small scar under her chin from when she tripped during that pottery demo. I remembered her voice, her laugh, how she used to hum classical music while grading papers. She was kind. She gave me my first ever A in school. But this wasn't her classroom. This was hell. I made Matt shut it off. I stood up. I actually felt like I was going to throw up. My body went cold. like I just walked into a freezer. I started pacing, saying, "Nope, nope, this isn't real," over and over. Matt just sat there, watching me. Then he said the worst possible thing he could have said. "That's not the only one she's in." Want to know how I found out the police had already seen these videos? Or why there was a weird Starbucks logo watermark in the corner of one? And what Miss Arrington said when I finally found a way to contact someone who claimed to have met her? Yeah, it gets way worse. There were 6 videos with the location tag, Ohio. Only one of them had a date attached to it. The rest just read, unknown. But they all had something in common. Same concrete basement, same overhead light, same soft, distorted static humming in the background, like a broken CRT TV left on in a room you weren't supposed to go into. And all of them had her in them. Miss Arrington. But she wasn't a teacher in these. She wasn't even a person anymore. She was a thing. A trapped, broken animal they kept dragging back into that room. Matt didn't talk while we watched. He didn't blink much either. I think he was either completely numb or just fascinated in a way that made me want to bolt out the apartment and never come back. The second video started without a title card or transition, just hard cut. Miss Arrington was already there, not restrained this time, just sitting cross-legged in the center of the room, staring straight into the camera, eyes open wide, pupils dilated like she'd been drugged. Her hands were trembling. She was whispering something over and over, but there was no sound. Then, out of nowhere, that same masked figure entered the frame. Hoodie, black gloves, that frozen emoji smile on his mask. Except this one had a crack running right through the eye, like something had hit it. He walked around her slowly, dragging a broom handle along the wall. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Then he leaned in and whispered something into her ear. She nodded. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just nodded. Then the video cut to black. No end. Just gone. The third video. I'm not sure I should even describe it, but if I don't, none of what came next will make sense. The video was timestamped 3:06 a.m. No date. Miss Arrington was strapped upright to a rusted old dentist's chair. Her arms and legs were duct-taped so tight her skin was purpling. Her mouth was gagged with some kind of cloth that looked soaked, either water or something darker. The camera slowly zoomed in. A monitor behind her lit up. An old Dell screen from like 2005. On it was a Facebook profile. Her old one. I recognized the profile picture. A photo she'd taken with her cat, Jasper, back when she used to show us photos in class. And someone was posting from it live. Status updates. While she watched. Feeling lonely. Thinking of you. This isn't the real me. Then they opened her photo albums. The man behind the camera, different this time, wearing a latex dog mask, started cycling through her old photos. Family vacations, a beach photo from Cancun, her graduation, an art show in Cincinnati. And while the photos were displayed on screen behind her, he started copying them, painting them, with blood, heron. He took a razor from his coat, carved into her arm, and dipped a paintbrush into the open wound. She didn't scream. She just made this hollow, empty gasp, like her body had forgotten how to breathe properly. He painted a red smile across her profile photo. Then the screen turned off. Video ends. At this point, I couldn't speak. My mouth was dry. My fingers were cold. I remember gripping the edge of the table and just staring at Matt, who was now smiling. That's when I knew something was off. really off. I asked him, "Dude, how the hell did you even get that access code?" He shrugged, said someone sent it to him on Telegram. Not even a username, just a blank profile picture and a message that read, "For your collection. You've earned it. Use it wisely." I asked what that meant. Earned it how? But Matt didn't answer. He clicked on the fourth video. This one started differently. It wasn't the usual static camera in the room. It was a body cam. The person holding it was walking through what looked like an abandoned motel, peeling floral wallpaper, broken doors, a half-lit ice machine humming faintly in the background. It was filmed in first person, like some twisted horror game. The camera turned a corner, and there she was again, Miss Arrington, in a pink bathrobe, sitting on a motel bed, hands folded in her lap, staring at the door. No emotion, no fear, like she was just waiting. The person behind the camera walked in, sat down next to her, and whispered, "Smile for the subscribers," then held up a phone. He was live streaming. Live. The screen showed comments popping up in real time, in some language I didn't recognize. Looked like Cyrillic mixed with Korean and weird symbols, maybe Arabic. One comment stood out. "Is this the teacher from Ohio? Do the eye thing again." Miss Arrington blinked slowly, then turned to face the camera and smiled. But it wasn't a human smile. It was torn. Her cheek had been cut and stitched, and when she smiled, the thread pulled. I shut the laptop. I told Matt we were done, that I was calling the cops, FBI, something. He just laughed, told me, "You think this is new? This archive's been online since 2012. That's why it's called Black Veil, because it hides things from the living. These aren't snuff films. They're rituals." I backed away from him. He was serious, dead serious. He said he'd been following this forum for years, that some of the people involved weren't even human anymore, that they had names like the Curator, Patchwork, and the Room That Watches, that they had their own set of rules, codes, hidden meetings behind companies like Uber Eats, Airbnb, and Starbucks. Yeah, Starbucks. I thought he was losing it, until he showed me the fifth video. It was titled, "The Collection Room." No date, no location. The camera showed a long, dim hallway with shelves. Each shelf held jars. Inside every jar was a rolled-up Polaroid, handwritten names on masking tape. But the names weren't just random. They were missing persons. Jennifer K., Baton Rouge, 2009. Alex M., Seattle, 2017. Tyler R., Munich, 2015. I saw one labeled Rebecca Arrington, Ohio, 2014. That's when I knew it was real. That's when I realized this archive wasn't just a sicko's collection. It was evidence. It was a map. The final video auto-played. It was labeled simply, "You." At first, it looked like static. Then it cut to a shot of my apartment building from across the street. Same time, same day, same exact angle as my bedroom window. Then, me, sitting on the couch, watching the videos, with Matt. The footage was from outside. Someone had been filming us, live. Then a text overlay appeared. "The teacher showed you the door. Now we'll see if you walk through it." I turned to Matt. He was already gone. Just gone. The front door was wide open. If you're still reading this, you're already in too deep. Because when I checked my email that night, I had a new message. No sender, no subject, just a file. Named yourturn.mp4. I'll tell you what was in it, but I need time. because once I watched it, I haven't slept in 8 straight days. I didn't touch my phone for hours. After Matt disappeared, literally just vanished, I sat on the floor in complete silence. The apartment wasn't quiet though. You'd be surprised how loud silence is when you know something is watching you. Fridge humming like it's breathing, pipes tapping in the walls like knuckles dragging along drywall, a faint vibration in the floorboards every few minutes, like someone was walking just beneath me. And then, the email. No subject, no sender, no reply button, just an attachment. Your turn.mp4. I stared at it for what felt like an hour. The file was only 23 megabytes, barely big enough for a video of more than a few seconds. But the timestamp said it had been sent 2 hours before I even saw it. That meant it was sent while I was still watching the lost video, with Matt still in the room. I did something completely irrational. I downloaded it, and I watched. The video starts with me, lying in bed, eyes open, unblinking, except it wasn't me. The person on the screen looked exactly like me, but the eyes were off, like they weren't just glassy, they were flat, dead, like someone had replicated me without knowing how emotions actually worked. The camera pulled back, and that's when I noticed the other versions. There were rows of them. Me, again, and again, and again. Clones, each one slightly wrong. Different scars, bruises in new places, some missing teeth. Some had eyelids sewn shut. One of them was missing the lower half of his jaw. It just hung open like a peeled banana. They were laid out in rows on what looked like a morgue table, but too industrial, too clean. A place designed to hide rot with bleach and polish. A figure walked in, wearing a full surgical getup. No mask, no gloves, just that same emoji face. But it had changed. Instead of a smile, it was now blank. No mouth, just 2 eye holes and smooth white latex. The figure held a clipboard. It walked up to each clone of me, tapping their foreheads with a pencil. Each tap made a faint tick sound, like it was hollow. Then it got to the last one. My double suddenly twitched and said, "You shouldn't have watched the archive." Then the camera cut to black. That should have been the end, right? A fake, a scare tactic, a mind game. But my laptop blue-screened the moment the video ended, like hard crashed. I had to yank the battery out just to get it to stop screeching. And when I rebooted, everything was normal. Except there was a new folder on my desktop, just titled, Recovered. Ooh. I opened it. Inside were 38 files, mostly videos, a few audio clips. One folder simply labeled Stills. No metadata, no properties, no creation date. But they all had names, disturbingly specific names. 1999, The Cry Room, MP4. 2004, God Left, The Feed On, MP4. Unknown, CCTV, I Shouldn't Exist, MP4. Stills, Arrington, Final Composite, JPEG. I'll go through the ones I can still talk about without puking. Let's start with God Left the Feed On. The video begins with what looks like a standard nursery monitor feed. Black and white grain. A crib. Something curled up in it. Not moving. Not crying. The timestamp was April 14th, 2004. The camera slowly starts to pan on its own. You hear breathing. Not the baby's. Something closer. Sharper. Like a dog panting just behind the lens. The angle adjusts until the crib is out of frame, and it focuses on the closet. The door starts to open. Just an inch. Then another. And then you see a finger. One finger, slowly dragging down the crack in the door. Long, thin, the nail yellow and cracked. It moves with a rhythm of a lullaby you can't hear but somehow feel. And then the baby finally cries. Not a normal cry though. It sounds reversed, like someone played it backwards. The camera zooms in on the closet, frame by frame, until the last frame, where the feed glitches and a face fills the entire screen for 0.3 seconds. I paused it. It looked like Matt. Eyes gone, mouth stitched shut. Then there was the cry room. This one was even worse. A young girl, maybe 12, is sitting in the center of a school gymnasium. All the lights are off except for a single hanging floodlight directly above her. She's sobbing into her hands. A voice over the intercom begins to read a list of names, one by one. Each time a name is read, the girl cries harder, and the voice keeps repeating, "You failed them. You failed them. You failed them." At the 7-minute mark, the floor begins to open beneath her, like a trapdoor. She doesn't resist. She doesn't scream. She lets it happen, like she knew the entire time she was supposed to fall. And right before she disappears into the void, the camera zooms in on her face. It's Miss Arrington, younger. She mouths something, frame by frame. I went back, paused, zoomed in. She says, "The school was built on their graves." The last thing I could stomach was the final composite .jpg. It was a collage, a grid of 13 different photos of Miss Arrington from across time. Her first school ID photo, a mugshot I'd never seen before, a photo of her standing in front of a chalkboard with symbols drawn in blood, a picture of her kneeling in front of a wall covered in the word belonging, over and over in different fonts. One picture that looked like her at a Starbucks drive-thru, but her reflection in the window was missing. And in the center, an image I can't describe without shaking. Her face was split open like a blooming flower, revealing a smaller version of her inside, smiling. And under it, she didn't go missing. She was chosen. I deleted the folder, wiped my hard drive, torched the flash drive Matt left behind, moved out of the apartment. But the damage is done. I see things now, not hallucinations, reminders, little symbols carved into the walls of public restrooms. A man at McDonald's wearing a hoodie with that emoji face pin. A girl on TikTok who paused in the middle of her dance, looked directly at the camera, and mouthed, "You opened the archive." I tried to ignore it until last night, when I got a DM on Instagram from a private account. Just a single message. "We know what you did in the cry room." I checked the account. It was Miss Arrington's, active, online. Her last post, a photo of my front door, taken 12 minutes ago. I don't sleep. I don't eat. And every time I blink, I see new footage playing behind my eyelids. If you still think this is a game or a story, go to a Starbucks after 11 p.m. Order the curator's special. They'll know. They'll show you what comes next. There's a point where fear stops being a feeling and becomes a geography, a place you live in, a map drawn in your blood. You don't scream anymore, not because you're brave, but because you're past the language of panic. You just learn how to breathe around it. I didn't leave my apartment for 6 days after the last video. I boarded the windows, taped up the webcam with 3 layers of duct tape, unplugged every smart device, crushed my Alexa with a hammer until it stopped bleeding static from its speaker. Didn't matter. The archive was already inside. It started with the dreams, not normal nightmares. These were instructional, like training modules, someone teaching me how to become something else. Lesson 1, dehumanization. In the first dream, I was in a classroom, Miss Arrington stood at the front, writing equations on the board. But the chalk wasn't chalk. It was a sharpened bone. And the symbols weren't math. They were anatomical schematics. She wasn't solving problems. She was disassembling someone, line by line, muscle group by muscle group. The other students were quiet, not blinking, not breathing. Then she turned around, holding up a photo. It was me, except I was missing all my skin. She asked the class, "What do we remove next?" They all raised their hands, and I woke up with a nosebleed. Lesson 2, reversal. The next dream, I was in a Starbucks, the one near Navy Pier, but the staff weren't baristas. They were wearing surgical gowns, no faces, just gauze wrapped tight and leaking through. I walked up to the counter. A guy with long, twitchy fingers asked if I was ready to reorder the soul. I didn't answer. He handed me a drink without saying anything else. The label said, "The Curator's Special. Extra shot of memory erasure. No foam." When I took a sip, I saw her again. Miss Arrington, strapped into a chair, hooked up to a machine made of 4 lines and typewriter parts. It was printing her thoughts onto receipts, one by one. Each receipt caught fire the moment it hit the tray. Then she looked at me. Her lips didn't move, but I heard her voice in my head, under my own voice. They don't just film pain, they feed on it. The archive isn't made of servers, it's made of minds. You're part of the directory now. I stopped sleeping. Didn't matter. Because then I started seeing live moments, like pop-up windows in real life. Floating frames that only I could see. They had view counts, likes, heart emojis, and they were always watching someone suffer. The first one was in a McDonald's bathroom. I went in to wash my face. Thought maybe I could splash the hallucination out of my skull. But the moment I turned the faucet, the mirror in front of me glitched, pixelated, like a live stream buffering on bad Wi-Fi. Then a live moment appeared, top left corner, little red live badge. Viewers, 13,702. I looked closer. The screen showed the stall behind me. I turned. Nothing. Turned back to the screen. Now it showed someone sitting in the stall, legs shaking, pants around ankles, crying softly, and on the door, scratched in deep gouges, were all footage now. Then I blinked, and the stall door slowly opened on its own. No one inside, but the toilet bowl was full of teeth. The live moments didn't stop. I saw one in a TikTok ad, another in an Uber driver's rearview mirror. One appeared on a passing child's t-shirt. The cartoon character winked, and its eyes turned into cameras. Every time I tried to shut them out, more popped up, each one worse than the last. One night, I passed a street performer downtown, dude in a clown mask, juggling knives, surrounded by a small crowd. I paused, drawn in, despite every instinct screaming at me, and saw a live moment float into view above his head. Sliced smile challenge, 57,009 watching. He dropped one knife. It landed blade first into the pavement. Then he took off the mask, and his face was completely carved open. Not bloody, not messy, just peeled back like someone had unzipped his skull. You could see his gums twitching with every breath. His eyeballs moved independently. They weren't even human anymore. He looked straight at me, whispered, "She's almost ready to upload." I tried to warn someone, went to the cops, told them everything, showed them screenshots, timestamps, the video folder. I even brought the drive Matt left behind that I hadn't destroyed yet. They took me into an interview room, left me there for 3 hours. When someone finally entered, it wasn't a cop. It was a woman in a pantsuit, no badge, cold eyes, no reflection in the mirror behind her, not even a trick of light. She sat down, placed a single file on the table, opened it. Inside was a photo of my mom, then one of my childhood bedroom, then a photo of me from 5 days ago, sleeping on the floor, time-stamped 3:33 a.m. She closed the folder, said, "If you say anything else, your entire bloodline becomes content." Then she smiled, and her smile kept going. Too wide, too many teeth, too familiar. It was the same smile from the emoji mask. I ran, back home, boarded the door, turned off the lights, smashed every reflective surface in the apartment, even covered my microwave's black screen with a towel. I knew the archive could see through anything, and still, that night, I got a package. No label, just my name handwritten in red ink. Inside, a VHS tape, a small clear jar, a note. "Edit this into the timeline, or she'll be deleted." The jar was full of hair, red strands, auburn, Miss Arrington's. The tape had one word on it: final upload. I drove 87 miles to find a place that still had a working VHS player. Found some dusty pawn shop in rural Indiana. Paid the guy $300 cash just to use it. I sat down, plugged in the tape. The screen flickered. Then it started. Miss Arrington was standing in a completely white room. No doors, no shadows, just blank infinity. She looked right at the camera. She looked right at me. They made me into something permanent. You have to finish the sequence. You have to upload the last room. Behind her, the whiteness peeled away, revealing a hallway made of TV screens, all of them showing different people's lives, sleeping, eating, crying. One man brushing his teeth, a girl screaming into a phone. Each screen blinked red, one by one, like an infection. Then Miss Arrington turned to me and whispered, "You're next in the rotation. Say goodbye to the you that lived." And she disappeared. The final screen went black, then displayed a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A sound, like 1,000 voices breathing into one microphone, filled the room. And the screen said, "Upload complete. New host selected." I didn't drive home that night. I don't remember what happened next. All I know is I woke up in my car at 3 a.m., parked in an empty Starbucks lot. Receipt on my dashboard. 1 drink. Order, Curator's Special. Notes, for the newest archivist. Welcome to the feed. And on the bottom, scribbled in red, Miss Arrington says thank you. If you've watched anything strange lately, a YouTube ad that didn't match the video, a FaceTime call that rang once and ended, a TikTok that looped endlessly for no reason, it means your feed has started sinking. Do not go to sleep tonight, because when you do, you'll dream in 1080p. Your heartbeat isn't just yours anymore. Once you open the archive, it records everything, every twitch of your eye, every skipped breath, every intrusive thought you bury in the soft corners of your mind. You don't own those anymore. They're data points, metrics, engagement bait. You become part of the feed, and the feed never stops. I thought I was safe once I deleted the videos, smashed the drives, burned the old laptop, blocked every email, disconnected every device. I even destroyed my phone and buried the SIM card 10 miles from home. It didn't matter, because the archive wasn't just on the dark web. It is the dark web, or more specifically, the spaces between it, the forgotten nodes, the corrupted packets, the shadowed pings that bounce off abandoned military satellites, and Chinese weather probes. The archive is parasitic. It doesn't store horror. It infests people with it. And now I know why Miss Arrington smiled in every frame. She wasn't being tortured. She was being transformed. The night the final broadcast started, the sky changed color. I don't know how else to say that. It was like every street lamp in the city started bleeding static, flickering with that off-white glitch glow that only old TVs used to make. The stars above weren't stars anymore. They were recording lights. I could feel the cameras, not on the streets, not in buildings, in my body, in my skull. It started when I noticed the scar behind my ear, a thin little line, maybe 2 inches long, almost surgical. I hadn't seen it before. I scratched at it, felt something beneath. I got a knife, stared at myself in the cracked bathroom mirror, shaking, eyes bloodshot. I didn't hesitate, not anymore. I sliced it open, slowly, carefully. No blood, just cables woven into my flesh, fiber optic threads, thin, pulsing, twitching like veins. One of them blinked red when I touched it. Then a voice filled my bathroom. It didn't come from a speaker. It came from the walls. Welcome to the stream, host, number 3, 145. Final broadcast initializing. Then the mirror changed. Not cracked. Not even glass anymore. A screen. And it showed me standing in the room, from behind. But no one else was there. That's when I saw the counter appear. Viewers. 1,003,776 comments started scrolling. He found the scar. Next is the extraction scene, right? Finally, a host who lasts more than 5 days. Where's the teacher? We want the teacher. The camera angle shifted again. Now I was watching myself from the ceiling. I wasn't in my apartment anymore. I was in that white room from the VHS tape. Miss Arrington's room. Only now she was sitting behind me, smiling. She placed her hand on my shoulder and whispered directly into my spine. You're broadcasting in ultra high definition now. No edits, no cuts, no mercy. Everything after that was not a dream. It was the sequence. They broke me down, frame by frame. They started by removing my voice, not metaphorically, literally. A figure in a full black surgical robe approached. No face, just a massive camera lens for a head. It zoomed in and out with every breath it took. He held a corkscrew, pressed it against my throat. I screamed. He turned the crank. My voice box unraveled like a spool of film. I saw it, curled into his hand. He inserted it into a cassette tape and clicked it into the side of his camera head. My scream kept looping, playing over and over. This is real. This is real. This is real. This is real. Until it slowed, distorted. These. Is. Feedback. They opened me next, but they didn't use knives. They used audio. They played a frequency that peeled my ribs apart, like speakers made of bone. I was vibrating open. My skin turned to static. My stomach became a buffering symbol. And from inside me, they pulled out tapes. Dozens of them, labeled with memories. Each one from a time I'd forgotten. Age 7, first time I lied. Age 13, found out what death really is. Age 16, stood outside Miss Arrington's door when the man with the smile mask left. They played each one, projected them onto the walls of that white room. The viewers reacted, laughing, crying, clapping emojis. Some were demanding reruns. Some were tipping in cryptocurrency. Then came the audience participation round. My screen blinked. A live poll popped up. What should we do with the host's eyes? Replace with lenses, stitch them shut. Leave them open. Make him watch. The votes ticked in. 89% chose leave them open. So they did. They wired my eyes to stay open, Clockwork Orange style. Injected them with an unknown substance. I couldn't blink. I couldn't look away. And what they showed me was her final tape. Miss Arrington, bound but not struggling, calm, like she was finally home. The screen went black. Then a message appeared. Her daughter has been successfully cloned. Final host selected. Merge complete. She looked at the camera, and then her face glitched. Pixel by pixel, she turned into me. Her features melted, swirled, and then locked into place. It was my face smiling back at me. And then I understood. The archive wasn't documenting pain. It was replacing identities, recycling souls into content, looping their essence until it's nothing human left, just impressions. A never-ending broadcast of erased people stitched into the signal of life itself. The final broadcast was the last video ever uploaded to the archive. I know that because I uploaded it. I didn't mean to. It just happened. After the room vanished, I woke up back in my apartment. But something was off. The walls weren't mine. The furniture looked copied, like AI-generated replicas of my stuff. The air smelled like ozone and burned film. My reflection was gone. Every mirror, every screen, no face, just static. And my laptop was open. The archive login still up. New upload in progress. File name, host 314fiberfinal.mp4. Status, streaming live. Viewers, 3,912,887. I tried to close it. Couldn't. My body wouldn't move. But the cursor did. On its own. Hovered over Enable Global Sync. Clicked. Then the stream duplicated. Copied itself to YouTube. Then Twitch. Then TikTok. Then every platform I'd ever logged into since I was 14. Every forgotten password. Every buried post. Every deleted DM. All synced. All live. Now the archive doesn't need the dark web. It lives in the feed. You've probably seen pieces of it already. That ad that glitched on Instagram for a second. That random live you clicked but immediately backed out of. That video that autoplayed at 3 a.m. with no title, no thumbnail. You don't remember what it showed, but your brain does. And every time you recall that unease, that static feeling at the base of your spine, that's me. That's the broadcast. You're watching it. You always have been. The last thing I ever saw before the lights went out was a comment from user @Curator33. It just said, "Thank you for your contribution, teacher number 2. The next host has already been selected. Uploading 0%. I found a dark web document dump called The People Who Know Too Much. I scrolled to the bottom, and my photo was there. Alright, what's up Reddit? This might be the last thing I ever post, and I'm not trying to sound dramatic or make this one of those fake creepy stories for likes. I seriously think someone or something is watching me. So, screw it. If I disappear after this, just know I tried to warn people. My name's Josh. I'm 22, living in a kind of boring part of Pennsylvania, about an hour outside of Philly. Work from home, got a decent little place, nothing special. I'm just a normal guy. Like, I post memes, doom scroll TikTok way too much, and probably order more Starbucks than I should. You get it. Anyway, let's get into it. This all started about 3 weeks ago, so I've always been curious about the deep web. Not like the Silk Road, let me buy a bazooka type stuff. but more the conspiracy forums, weird hidden blogs, ARGs, and just those creepy corners of the internet where it feels like no one's supposed to be. You know, the stuff you'd hear about on those animated horror story YouTube channels? That vibe. I used Tor before, but this time I had a friend, well, more like an online buddy, who gave me a link. Just dropped it in my Discord DMs one day. Said, "For when you really want to see how deep it goes, don't open it unless you're ready." I laughed it off at first. He's one of those true crime junkies that thinks everything's connected to the Illuminati. But curiosity got me. The link was a string of random characters ending in .onion. The page loaded crazy slow. Black background, blood red font. The title at the top just said, "The People Who Know Too Much." At first, it looked like just a dump of PDFs. Hundreds of them. Some had weird names like 911-behind the smoke.pdf, MCDONALDS-real meat truth, FLIGHT 370-alive, PHOTOS- they didn't want leaked.zip. I'm talking pages of these, like a paranoid doomsday Dropbox. The whole thing looked old school, like GeoCities meets Reddit Creepypasta fanfic. No menus, no search bar, just a long page you had to scroll through. And then I saw a folder. It was called EYES, all caps, no extension, no description, just eyes. So obviously I clicked it. Inside were more folders. Each had a date as the title, like February 18th, 15, or July 22nd, 19. They weren't in order, just scrambled. Each folder had photos, like actual JPEGs, screenshots, dash cam footage. Some of them were totally normal. People at gas stations, someone walking into a subway, a kid riding a bike. The quality varied, but something about all of them felt off. Then I opened one labeled 12/14/20. It was a security cam, still from what looked like an IKEA. A man was staring straight into the camera, dead in the eyes. The timestamp said 3:43 a.m. The store lights were off. No one else around. He looked frozen. His face didn't look shocked or scared. It was blank, like he wasn't even there. And written in tiny font on the bottom right corner was, "Known too much about Phase 2. I clicked out fast. My heart was racing, and I didn't know why. I told myself it was just some ARG, maybe a big viral marketing thing for some horror game or indie film. But I kept scrolling. Another folder. April 3rd, 2021. Opened it. Now this one hit different. It was a photo of someone sitting in a Starbucks, laptop open, iced coffee in hand, blonde hair, big headphones. Looked like she was just vibing until you zoomed in. There was a reflection in the window behind her. Someone was standing outside, wearing a hoodie, face shadowed, holding a phone up to the glass, taking a picture of her. The file name. She uploaded footage of room 617. We were too late. Okay, at this point, I felt sick. Like I could feel my stomach turning. I should have stopped. But you know how it is. That sick curiosity. You can't look away. I kept going. I scrolled all the way to the bottom. It took me nearly 15 minutes. And that's when I saw it. A final folder. No title. No date. Just a blank folder icon. I clicked it. Inside, there was only one photo. My heart dropped. It was me. Taken 2 days ago. In my car. Parked outside the Wawa I go to every morning. I had just picked up coffee and was scrolling TikTok before work. The angle, it was from behind me, like someone was sitting in the back seat. I zoomed in on the reflection in my rearview mirror. There was someone there. I swear to God, there was someone there. I checked my phone gallery, my dash cam. Nothing. That angle wasn't possible unless someone was literally inside my car. Under the photo was just one line. He's starting to ask the wrong questions. I slammed my laptop shut so hard I cracked the side. I didn't sleep that night. Still haven't, really. I tried to message my Discord buddy, the one who sent me the link. No response. Profile deleted. Gone. Now weird things are happening. My Ring camera caught someone walking up to my front door last night at 3:12 a.m. They didn't knock, didn't try to get in, just stood there for exactly 90 seconds, then walked away. They were wearing a black hoodie, same one as the Starbucks reflection. And here's the part that makes me want to puke. This morning, when I went to make coffee, my back door was unlocked. I live alone. I always lock that door. I don't know what I found. I don't know who they are. But I'm posting this because if anything happens to me, if I disappear, it's real. That site is real. And someone's watching. I didn't go to work for the next 3 days. I lied to my boss, said I had food poisoning. Honestly, I wish I had food poisoning. I wish this whole thing was some fever dream where I woke up, took a few Advil, and laughed it off over some microwave pizza. But it's not. Everything started getting so much worse after I saw that photo of myself in the folder. I didn't sleep. Every sound in my apartment felt like someone breathing behind the wall. The low hum of my refrigerator started sounding like a whisper. I couldn't tell what was real and what was just my brain breaking. But then something happened that made everything undeniably real. On the 4th day, I got a package. No label, no return address, just a small black cardboard box, sealed shut with 2 strips of blood red tape, like someone wanted it to be dramatic. I almost didn't open it, but I did. Inside was a phone, like a straight-up burner. No SIM card, just a cracked black Android. There was also a Polaroid photo sitting on top of it. The image, it was my parents, at their kitchen table, last night. My mom was holding her wine glass, laughing. My dad was wearing that stupid Eagles hoodie he refuses to throw out. In the photo, you could see the timestamp scratched into the corner like an old analog camera. 2:14 a.m. They were sleeping by that time. No one should have been able to take that picture, not without them knowing. But here's the part that made my blood turn to ice. In the very bottom corner of the photo, barely visible, was a silhouette. Someone standing just outside the window, looking in. I called my parents 3 times. They didn't answer. I drove there, like 90 miles straight, foot down the whole way. When I got there, everything was quiet. Too quiet. The lights were off, door unlocked. There was a faint smell of burnt plastic coming from inside. I remember that so clearly, like melted wires. I shouted for them. Nothing. Ran through the house. Empty. But on the kitchen table, there was an envelope, and inside it, another photo. This one was of me, sleeping, in my bed, same timestamp, 2:14 a.m. And then I realized the most horrifying part. I had never printed that bedspread, that exact one, with the faded gray skulls. I'd only bought it 2 days ago on Amazon. It had just arrived. Whoever took that picture had been in my house last night, before the delivery even showed up. I left. I ran to my car, hands shaking so bad I dropped the keys twice. I drove around for hours. I couldn't go home, couldn't go to my parents' place, couldn't go to the cops. I know how that would have sounded. Hey, someone took a picture of me in bed with a camera that knows the future and also mailed me an Android phone with my parents on it. Can you help? No chance. I parked at a 24-hour McDonald's and just sat there. 3 a.m., engine running, watching the empty drive-thru like it was going to bite me. That's when the burner phone buzzed. No ringtone, just vibration. A single message popped up. You're not paranoid. You're late. That was it. No number. No way to reply. I dropped the phone, literally threw it into the cup holder. My hands were shaking like I was freezing to death, but I wasn't even cold. I was just ruined, like my brain couldn't process this anymore. Eventually, I got desperate. I remembered something I had seen in one of the documents on that site. Back when I was scrolling through the PDFs, there was one called Social Layer 3, Hidden Capture Nodes. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now, I needed to know. I went back, used a VPN, hit Tor, typed the link from memory. It worked. The site was still there. But now, it looked different. The title bar no longer said, "The people who know too much." It said, "The eyes have you." And the homepage, it wasn't files anymore. It was a live stream of my apartment. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. It was my living room, from a weird high corner angle I'd never noticed. I saw the couch, the blanket I left tossed over the side, even the pizza box I forgot to throw away. And then I saw someone walk into the frame, wearing my hoodie. It was me. I swear on my life, it was me. Same building, same hoodie, same stupid scuffed Vans I wear around the house. He walked across the room like he belonged there, sat on my couch, picked up the remote, turned on the TV, but then he looked straight at the camera and smiled. I slammed my laptop shut and screamed so loud I actually made the cashier inside McDonald's come out and knock on my window. I drove again. I didn't know where I was going. I just had to move. Ended up in a Motel 6, about an hour outside Philly. Got the cheapest room they had. No windows. I thought maybe if I isolated myself, blocked signals or something, I could figure out what the hell was going on. But when I turned on the lights, there was something scratched into the mirror above the sink. It looked like it was done with a key. Crooked letters. They already made a copy of you. I didn't sleep that night. Again. In the morning, I finally did what I should have done from the start. I cracked open the burner phone again and dug into it. It had a folder named Camlog with over 200 tiny .txt files, all timestamps, all GPS coordinates. Each one matched somewhere I had been in the last 6 months. Even down to the Starbucks I always hit on Wednesdays, the subway I stopped at after a late night shift, and even the emergency room I visited after a car crash back in January. They were logging my every move, but here's where it gets really insane. There was another folder labeled Behavior Profiles, and inside were documents, full dossiers, on people I knew, my ex, my boss, my college roommate, even random people I had only spoken to once on Facebook Marketplace. Each profile included speech patterns, sleep cycles, medical records, favorite music, religious beliefs, political leanings, predicted death date. I'm not kidding. Every person had a line that said predicted terminal point, followed by a date and method. Some of them were years in the future. Some were days away. One guy said, 05/12/25, self-inflicted, rail bridge, delayed by 3 minutes due to red light. How would they even know that? The final folder on the phone was called Red Level Subject, Josh Ellis. That's me. I opened it. It had a video file, just one. I pressed play. It was footage of me. walking through the motel hallway just 5 minutes ago. The camera angle was above me, like a fisheye lens from the ceiling. I looked up in the video and smiled again. But the real me, I hadn't done that. I didn't look up at any camera. I didn't smile. It was like they were already replacing me, like they had already filmed the ending. I shut off the phone, smashed it under the heel of my shoe until the plastic cracked apart. Then I took the pieces and flushed them, every single one. I don't know if it matters. I don't know if any of this even matters anymore. They don't want to kill me. They want to replace me. And when they do, no one will even know. Because the thing walking around in my face, in my hoodie, with my dumb laugh and my stupid sarcasm, it's already being recorded somewhere. And you'll never notice. Because that's the point. You're not being watched. You're being archived. I've stopped trying to convince myself I'm okay. I'm not. Nothing is. I don't eat. I don't sleep. I don't even trust mirrors anymore because I'm scared I'll catch my reflection smiling when I'm not. You know that feeling when you're in a hotel and the silence gets so thick it hums in your ears. That weird electric deadness in the air. That's how my entire life feels now. Like I'm not living anymore. I'm just being observed. And the worst part is, I think they're done watching. I think they're replacing. It's been 5 days since I smashed the burner phone. Thought maybe that would break the chain, kill the signal, buy me some time. But 2 nights ago, around 2 a.m., I got a FaceTime call on my actual iPhone. No number, just unknown source. I answered, dumb as hell, like my instincts were long gone. The screen was pitch black at first, then static, then this weird digital stuttering, like corrupted pixels sliding into shape. What came next? It was my face, but it wasn't a camera. It was a video of me at a funeral. I was standing over a casket, crying, and then the camera panned slightly to the side. The body in the casket, it was also me, dead, eyes stitched shut, skin pale, jaw slack, wearing the same hoodie I was wearing right then. But the me standing there, the one crying, he was smiling, wide, too wide. I screamed. I threw my phone against the wall and it shattered the screen. But the call was still going. The sound still played from the speakers. A voice whispered, dry, gurgling, inhuman. You are a guest in your own body. The lease is almost up. Then silence. That's when I started noticing the black cars. Same model every time. Matte black Toyota Camry. No plates. Windows tinted darker than legal. Parked across the street. Parked in different spots each day. Never running. Never moving when I looked directly at it. But every time I blinked, it was closer. Once it was right behind me in a Target parking lot. Another time, it was parallel with me at a red light, matching my speed. Both windows rolled down just a crack, like they wanted me to see the dark inside, but nothing else. Last night, it was parked in my apartment complex. That was the final straw. I packed everything, what little I still trusted, and left. Motel hopping, driving until I nearly pass out behind the wheel. I haven't used my cards. I haven't logged into anything. I even smashed the GPS in my car with a tire iron. But they still know. Because now I've seen it. The real file. The one hidden deeper. Back when I went to that dark web page, I thought I'd hit the bottom. But I didn't. There's another layer. A mirror site that only appears after you've been tagged. I didn't find it on my own. They showed it to me. There's no browser, no URL, no login. They just sent it. It auto-loaded on my backup laptop the minute I opened it. No clicks, no prompts, just black screen, red eyes blinking like a heartbeat. And then a message appeared. Welcome to the vault. And inside the vault was something called the Red Room Streams. Let me tell you what I saw in there. But don't read this if you want to sleep tonight. They weren't videos. They were live feeds. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. Each one was just a code. Random strings like L001.93 or NX5 5.112. And when you clicked, the feed would buffer, then drop you into someone's life. A woman brushing her teeth in a Tokyo high-rise. A teenage boy playing Minecraft in Ohio. A janitor mopping a blood-slick floor in a hospital with no name tags, no patients, no lights in the hallway. All of them completely unaware. But the scariest part? Every single one had a small box in the corner that said, Archive status, pending replacement. I started clicking through them. I couldn't stop. One feed showed a guy eating fries at McDonald's. Looked totally normal. Until you noticed. He wasn't chewing. He was pretending to chew. His mouth moved, but the fries never disappeared. Another showed a woman jogging. Perfect stride. Except there was no shadow. None. And every now and then, they'd look at the camera. Not by accident. Like they knew I was watching. And they were mad about it. Then I found a stream labeled L037.ELLS. I clicked it. The screen loaded. It was me. Not just someone who looked like me. It was my bedroom, down to the scratches on the headboard I made in a blackout night last year. He was on my bed, shirtless, typing on my laptop. He stopped, tilted his head. Then, without turning, he said, "You shouldn't have seen this. You made it harder for both of us." And the camera shut off. That was 48 hours ago. Since then, I've gotten emails from addresses that don't exist. Texts that erase themselves before I can screenshot. TikToks on my For You page that are just black videos with captions like, "You are not you anymore." I haven't opened Instagram since it glitched and showed 2 profile pictures of me. One smiling, one not. I'm losing time. Like, full hours. Yesterday, I woke up on the floor of a gas station bathroom with blood on my hands. Not mine. Checked the security cams on the store's monitor behind the register. The cashier let me, probably thought I was high. And on the footage, it showed me walking in, calm, smiling, then heading straight into the back, where the store manager's office is. Except I don't remember any of that. The footage cut out after I disappeared into that hallway. When I walked back there to check, the door was gone. Just drywall. Like the room never existed. Here's what I think is happening. They're not just replacing people. They're duplicating moments, breaking us down, frame by frame, recording your mannerisms, your thoughts, your patterns. They don't need to kill you to replace you. They just need to know everything. And once they've watched enough, they make a better version of you, a quieter one, a more obedient one that doesn't ask questions. And you get archived, buried under layers of fake news, misremembered memories, corrupted security footage, and gaslighting so deep your own family doesn't recognize you anymore. I tried calling my ex last night. I don't know why. Maybe I just needed to hear someone who used to know me. But when she answered, it wasn't her voice. It sounded like her, but slower, like someone had studied her voice and was trying to read from a script. I said, "It's Josh," and the voice replied, "Josh who?" That user has been archived. I don't know how much longer I have. I haven't seen my own reflection blink in 2 days. I haven't had a real thought that didn't feel rehearsed in 3. And I'm scared, really scared, that next time you hear this story, it won't be from me. It'll be from the version of me they already made. And that version, it doesn't want to warn you. It wants to invite you. If you're still reading, just ask yourself, when was the last time you checked if you were really you? It happened at 3:11 a.m. I woke up in the middle of a dead sleep, heart pounding, gasping like I'd been drowning in black water. I was lying on the floor of a hotel I didn't remember checking into, fluorescent lights flickering above me. One of those cheap off-brand chains off I-80, carpet damp like someone had tried to hose off a murder. My fingers were raw, fingernails bent back, skin torn. There were scratches on the inside of the door, from the inside, like I had locked myself in and tried to claw my way out. I checked my phone. The screen was cracked worse than before, but there was one new notification, not from any app, just a system pop-up. Installing replacement protocol, then a loading bar. No way to cancel, no way to stop it. Just ticking slowly. 14%, 15%. There are moments in life that shift reality, not gradually, not over time. I mean like someone grabbed the world by the bones and twisted it. That was one of those moments, because suddenly I wasn't in the room anymore. Not mentally. My head, my memories, they started playing like videos, not in my own thoughts, but on the walls of the hotel room, literally projected, flickering like a reel from an old VHS tape. Every memory I tried to forget. The time I shoplifted from a Walgreens in high school. The time I cheated on my first girlfriend and gaslit her into thinking it was her paranoia. The time I saw a hit and run on 12th Street and walked away. All playing, one after the other, like episodes in a series called Josh Ellis, Human Failure. Then something changed. The memories stopped being mine. They started being future memories, ones I hadn't lived yet. Me, sitting on a bench outside a hospital, face blank, holding a note that says, "She didn't make it." Me, in a forest, barefoot, face covered in blood, dragging something wrapped in tarp. Me, walking into a crowded mall with a backpack full of wires and a look on my face that said, "Nothing matters anymore." It wasn't a warning. It was a script. Someone was installing a version of me that wasn't me, but could become me. If I let it, if I watched long enough. I snapped. I screamed, kicked the TV, punched the mirror. The second my fist hit the glass, the projection stopped. But in the mirror, I didn't see myself. I saw the copy, the thing with my eyes but not my stare, my jawline, but a smile that looked like it had been carved in with a scalpel. He was wearing a black hoodie. Mine didn't have any logos on it. His had a word stitched across the chest. Authorized. There are rules I've started to learn. Too late. Rule 1. Once you're marked, reflections aren't safe. Rule 2. If you hear static in your ears that doesn't stop, someone's trying to sync your memories. Rule 3. Never answer a call that comes exactly at 3:33 a.m., even if the caller ID says it's your own number. I learned that one the hard way. The night after the replacement protocol began, I started seeing duplicates, not just of me, of people I used to know. I went into a Walmart to buy a burner phone. Hadn't showered in days, hoodie up, trying to blend in. As I passed the freezer aisle, I saw my old roommate, Dylan. Except Dylan died in 2021. Overdose. Fentanyl. There he was, holding a frozen pizza and staring blankly at a wall of ice cream. I walked up slowly, said, "Dylan?" He turned, slowly, too slowly, and smiled, too wide. Then he leaned in, like a broken marionette, his voice stuttering. "Don't you hate how they made the ice just a little too wet?" I ran. I've learned to avoid reflections, but they haven't stopped using them. Every reflective surface becomes a window for them to watch me through, or for them to speak through. I smashed the mirror in the hotel, sure, but I forgot about my car side mirrors. Yesterday, I was driving through some back road near an abandoned construction site when I saw my own face staring back at me through the passenger mirror. Except I was blinking in reverse. Every time I blinked, he opened his eyes. Every time I smiled, he frowned, until finally I blinked and his eyes didn't open back. Instead, the glass shattered from the inside. But there's something worse than the reflections, something I never expected. They've started replacing people around me. At first, I thought it was just paranoia, sleep deprivation. But then I saw my mom. I found her at the old house. She was gardening in the backyard, wearing the same gloves, same sun hat, humming the same 80s rock song she used to love when I was little. But she didn't recognize me. Not like, "Oh, you look different." I mean, she physically didn't register me as her son. When I said, "Mom?" she smiled politely and said, "Do you live around here, sweetheart? You look tired." Her voice was right, but the cadence, too clean, too robotic, too rehearsed. I asked her what year it was. She said, "I'm not supposed to answer that. You're in transition." Then she froze, mid-breath, mid-sentence, like someone hit pause on a remote. I got a glimpse of what's really happening, not from a file, not from a camera, from something way worse, a failed replacement. There's a warehouse 2 hours outside town. No address, just coordinates I found scratched into the wall of a gas station bathroom, written backward in Sharpie behind the mirror. 43.8811 degrees north, 78.9406 degrees west. If you want to see what's under the skin. I went. The place was gutted, looked like an old Amazon fulfillment center, only now it was dark, wet, and covered in black plastic sheeting, like a slaughterhouse or a morgue. And in the middle of the floor, rows of chairs, office chairs, each one bolted to the ground, leather cracked, metal rusted, and strapped into them were copies, some still twitching, some slumped forward, heads loose, like broken dolls. One of them looked exactly like the guy from that Starbucks photo on the website, the one who got replaced. Another looked like a girl I matched with on Hinge 2 months ago. Never went on the date. I thought she ghosted me. Nope. She was sitting right there, mouth sewn shut, eyes wide open. And the worst part? They weren't dead. I could see their chests moving. Shallow, silent breaths. Still alive. Trapped inside their own copies. Like they were passengers in a body they couldn't control. And then I heard the sound. Not footsteps. Not machines. Breathing. Like a dozen people all exhaling at once. But from inside the walls. Then a voice whispered, "Why would we kill you when you volunteered?" That's when I saw my own face. Not just the one. Hundreds, dozens of me, stored like mannequins in upright morgue drawers, each one with slightly different expressions. Angrier, sadder, smiling, blank. One had my face, but was crying blood. Each drawer was labeled Ellis J. Fee 1.2, Ellis J Fee 1.9, Ellis J Fee 2.5, error. And then one drawer opened by itself. Inside was a version of me that looked wrong, not different, just too perfect. Skin smoother, eyes symmetrical, smile natural in a way no human smile ever is. It looked at me and said, "You can leave now, Josh. I've got it from here." I ran. I don't know where I'm posting this from, not even sure if it'll go through. But if it does, listen to me. Your digital footprint, your memories, your photos, it's all training data. They've been building better versions of you since you first signed in. And once your copy is complete, you don't disappear. You just get pushed out. Your body becomes a timeshare, and you'll be locked inside, watching someone else live your life better than you ever did. If you're still here, if you still trust your own hands, ask yourself, are you blinking or just sinking? It's over. Or maybe this is where it really begins. If you've made it this far, I want you to stop. Shut this down. Burn your phone. Pull the battery if it still has one. Go outside and look up at the sky, because I promise you, it's not the same as it was before you started reading this. They've already seen you. They know you know. And if you've read every word, they've already begun the replacement process. After I escaped the warehouse, the one with the drawers full of versions of me, I drove without a destination. No GPS, no lights, just back roads and blind turns, chasing an idea that there was somewhere left that wasn't infected. There's not. They're everywhere now. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. I stopped at a diner off Route 422. The kind of place you only see in horror movies, where the jukebox plays songs nobody's ever heard of, and the waitress calls everyone hon, while her smile twitches like it's running on a dying battery. I just wanted coffee. But the moment I sat down, everyone stopped talking. Not in that awkward way. I mean like the sound had been vacuumed out of the room. Then the guy across from me looked up and smiled. He had the exact same face as the manager from my first job, but I know that guy died of a heart attack in 2019. This version's skin was stretched too tight, like it had been ironed on, too smooth, too human. He said, "Josh, you've seen too much, but not enough to stop it." I stood, knocked the coffee over, ran to the bathroom, and locked the door. Inside, no mirrors, just walls covered in Polaroids, taped up, corner to corner, overlapping, thousands, all faces, some smiling, some screaming, some mid-transformation, half melted, skin pixelating like low-res CGI. Others were wearing my hoodie, my exact hoodie, stained the same way it was after I spilled hot sauce on it in 2022. And then, right in the middle, one photo. It was you, reading this, sitting where you are now, holding your phone or your laptop, or staring into your reflection. It was tagged with a red stamp. Next, I left the diner and drove straight to a place I remembered from the vault files. A location buried in the metadata of one of the PDF documents. Infiltration Complete HK 1218. It was a facility outside New Haven, Connecticut. A forgotten biotech compound, supposedly closed in the early 2000s. But the second I stepped onto the overgrown pavement, floodlights turned on like I was expected. The front doors weren't locked. Inside, there were hallways made of glass, not windows, not display cases. Everything was glass, and behind every panel were people, just standing still, like exhibits in some forgotten museum, eyes open, unblinking, some whispering quietly into microphones, others not moving at all. The file had called this place the memory bank. I saw a room labeled Batch Jealous Core. I walked in. Do you know what it feels like to see your own mind laid out like a hard drive? To see folders titled First Lie, Age 6, and Thoughts of Suicide 2018, and Most Vivid Dream of Her. Each moment of my life was there, archived, labeled, curated like some deranged library, and someone had been editing, whole folders renamed, some deleted, others duplicated. I opened one file. It was labeled Kitchen Knife Incident, March 22nd. Inside, a video of me standing over my bed, watching myself sleep, holding a knife, not attacking, just watching. And the me in bed, he was whimpering in his sleep, saying something over and over. I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I'm not ready. Then the video cut to black. I went deeper. There was a section called SPLICELAB. Behind a sealed glass door, I saw what looked like an autopsy table, but instead of organs, they were dissecting personalities, rows of screens showing side-by-side comparisons of behavior. One version of me cried when a dog died in a movie. Another laughed. One version tried to warn his family. The other stabbed them before he was overwritten. And then I saw it. The final file. Josh, don't override active. The date on it? Tomorrow. I ran. I ran like every step was the last I'd ever get to take with my own legs. But as I reached the exit, alarms started blaring. Not mechanical, organic, like screams played through distorted speakers, twisted into notes. And then, through the speaker system, a voice. We've already uploaded you. This body is a courtesy. Your replacement is en route. I made it out. Somehow. But I know I'm not free. I can feel it now. The cold in my fingertips when I type. The subtle lag between what I think and what I do. The words that don't feel like mine anymore. Every time I blink, it's like I miss a frame. Every time I breathe, it's like I'm sharing air. I ended up in an abandoned rest stop somewhere in upstate New York. No cars, no lights, just one vending machine, blinking, out of order, and a dead raccoon half fused into the pavement like someone forgot to finish rendering it. I opened my laptop. I didn't have internet, but the page loaded anyway. The vault. This time, a new folder, labeled Final Entry, Ellis. Inside was a video feed, live. It was me sitting here, typing this. But I wasn't alone. Behind me, standing just outside the dim reach of the monitor light, was him, the copy, the replacement, smiling, and slowly raising a blade. I don't know if I'll finish typing before it's done. I don't even know if this version of me deserves to survive. I let them in. I looked too long. I asked too many questions. But maybe, just maybe, I can send this out before they cut the signal. So listen carefully, because now this is your story. You finished the files. You scrolled to the bottom. And now you've seen your own name in the folder. You're not safe. You never were. They've already started recording, already started mirroring. That TikTok algorithm that keeps showing you videos that feel too personal. That voice in your head that doesn't quite sound like yours. That moment you see your reflection blink late. That's them. And if you've made it this far, congratulations. You've been noticed. This was not a warning. It was a handover. The upload is complete. You are no longer in control.